quick radio check. Copy that. Let's put on a show for Gators today, guys.
And it's lights now, and away we go. And George Russell and Lando Norris, very even start, but I think the Norris got the better bit. George Russell's going to be in the head. Oh, and George has got ahead, so he did get a better start. There's Aiden Jackson with a signature dive bomb into the first corner. No contact. I think just about he avoided the Alpine there. Verstappen Ocon. He's already moved up to P11, so 5 positions in the first corner. Lando Norris has got back ahead of George Russell. And Perez. This is Perez, he's slowing down as the Red Bull engine got in Perez now. As Leclerc comes in. Leclerc is in on lap 3, DRS enabled, and we've got drivers coming in for front wing changes, I guess. With a Haas in the pits, there's Kevin Magnussen. I believe Kevin Magnussen's on a front wing change, but Jackson takes to the outside. Round Tsunoda, brakes. Oh no, Tsunoda going to hit Albert, I think he did. There is a piece of debris there, and we have another damaged car. Max Verstappen is coming out of the pits. Lap 7. And did he have a front wing change? That's very early for a pit stop. Ocon slamming into the Ferrari, losing his front wing as well. I'm going to assume that his front wing damage is damaged. Does he have a front wing change? He does. And fierce battle with Leclerc. Had him in the wars. He's just come in, so it's another front wing change for Charles Leclerc. He's all going pear-shaped for Leclerc and Ferrari right now. Around the outside, in comes Hamilton and Verstappen got a bit out of shape. Was that a bit of debris from the Red Bull? And Mercedes and Hamilton made contact again. Jackson around the outside. And I think there was some debris that came off Hamilton or Verstappen's car. They've made contact again with Verstappen coming in. I think he is. Verstappen broke his front wing. Much better car than the Williams. He's going to lose time. Ricardo with him. Yeah, he does. And Norris, who's now a 2-time Grand Prix winner today, taking the checkered flag at the US Grand Prix. Where will McLaren be next season? Well, after the craziness of the US Grand Prix, just when you think this season can't be any more crazy, it finally happened. What do I mean? Well, he's been threatening to do it ever since he returned to the sport, and finally, Mika Hakkinen scored pole position number 27 for this year's Mexico City Grand Prix, a track Mika last raced at back in 1992. He qualified 18th and finished 6th. Ahead of Lotus teammate Johnny Herbert. Fun fact, this was also the race where the great Michael Schumacher scored his first of 155 podiums. I thought I'd throw that one in for you, Aaron. Thanks, Kiaz. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Well, this is certainly, without a doubt, the most feel-good story of the season. But one team that will not be feeling so good is Red Bull, as following the reveal of not only their procedural cost cap breach but also their minor overspend, they've been fined a whopping $7 million and have also been hit with a 10% reduction in their ATR wind tunnel CFD testing time for 2023. That's no doubt the harshest of all the penalties of all the teams that have been wrapped up in this saga. So with that finally dealt with, the teams no doubt have been frantically looking at their weather radars because there is supposedly a rain front moving in that could affect the second half of this race. Max Verstappen has a chance today to become the most winningest driver here. He's currently tied on 3 with the great Jim Clark. Even in his win in 1972, apparently wasn't part of the World Championship. Aiden Jackson is already looking much better around here than he did last year. He starts 5th. Charles Leclerc starts on the front row, and keep a watchful eye on Lewis Hamilton, who has become the latest victim of that dreaded grid penalty bag. He starts last. Thanks, Aaron. Well, the Mexico City circuit is one of those classics from yesteryear that came back to the calendar in 2015 after a 13-year absence. And there is only one man that should take us around here. Of course, that's home hero, Sergio Perez. He also drove a Hermes Rodriguez circuit, Mexico City Grand Prix, home favourite Sergio Perez. Not really much needs to be done here. This is a circuit with very long straights and a tight, twisty stadium section where you can see fans waving for miles, especially when Perez passes it. And here we are at the second of those straights. This will be one of those prime overtaking opportunities, as it does feature DRS as well. You can even see here some sections of that stadium section, and you can see all the Perez fans literally doing their Mexican wave as he passes past them. This was obviously in Q3 yesterday, in which Mika Hakkinen probably got some reverence of the cheers, grabbing his first pole position since back in 2001. And here comes, well, that was the twisty bit. This is probably more of a twisty bit than that section back there, but it's tyre wear isn't really overly a thing here, but the high altitude is, and that will be the most testing ways of fitness for that drivers today. Very short and very sweet. The Mexico City Grand Prix circuit. Well, I think it's fair to say that the second half of this season's gone by like an absolute blur. And even through that speed, we still don't really know who's going to win and what's going to happen. But today we hope for one thing: Mika Hakkinen to add to his win totals. It's not impossible. Round 20 of Formula 1 in 2022. Welcome to the Mexico Grand Prix, commentary from Aaron Henwood. Thank you, Chaos. I share that sentiment. Even if Mika Hakkinen doesn't convert, it has been a legendary weekend as he adds one more pole to his total already. I believe it was 27 that we stared at the top of the show. And will he add to that win column? His last was in 2001 at the US Grand Prix. Ironically, the one we just passed, but it was a very different circuit back then, back in Indianapolis. The Audi is decent round here, but Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc are back towards the front, battling for that championship picture. And if Max Verstappen can take a win here at a circuit that he's been generally good at, it could give him championship advantage with 2 races and a sprint left to go. The Mexico City Grand Prix virtually unchanged for many years, and that gives Mika Hakkinen the experience advantage. Let's go for the grid today. Lewis Hamilton, as we said, starts from the back with his old teammate Valtteri Bottas in 21st and 22nd. They're behind Alex Albon and another really poor qualifying showing for Mick Schumacher, but to be fair, he did take a penalty because Steven Esteban got 18th and 17th as the penalties racked up. Lance Stroll is behind Sebastian Vettel in his last ever Mexico Grand Prix. Fernando Alonso and Guan Yu Zhou are 14th and 13th. Kevin Magnussen 12th but takes a penalty. Daniel Ricciardo is 11th but also takes a penalty. I don't even remember what the original grid was, to be honest. Yuki Tsunoda is in 10th as we go into the top 10 with George Russell on a penalty as well. That's the same for Perez and Sainz, and that promotes Gasly all the way up to 6th. Behind Aiden Jackson, Max Verstappen, championship leader, P4. Lando Norris, P3. Charles Leclerc, championship challenger, P2. Mika Hakkinen, P1.
Here we go then.
Oh
the
my goodness.
Lap is underway.
And like we said, the Mexico Grand Prix, Mika Hakkinen last race here and its last appearance before 2014. all the way back in 1992. He qualified 18th and finished the points that day. Today, he starts on pole position. Will he convert it to another Grand Prix victory? And Audi, as we said, looking very strong around here. And particularly Aiden Jackson, as we said last year, or in the last race. Jackson seems to be continuing his vein of form, even in the circuits he was generally not so hot last year. I mean, as we said, the deficiency of the Haas last season really showed its true colours here. Jackson was in the top 10 and was just falling like a stone with no way to challenge, with DRS and ERS so much more powerful on almost all the cars around him. Jackson fell towards the back. This year, he's in a much more competitive situation, and of course in the championship picture. We forget to mention that Jackson did close the gap to the top by 21 points, but you have to say that Jackson really needs to win the next 3 races to be in with a shout. I mean, a win here today would certainly help. And who's to say that Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc won't get into some more carnage like they did in the US Grand Prix? There were 2 pit stops for Charles Leclerc for front wing, and I think Max Verstappen had the same thing. And there's nothing to say that they won't suffer that today. Nico Hulkenberg will be hoping that Charles Leclerc, with the Ferrari C-spec power unit in the back, doesn't race away too much. But there we are again, and that's interesting. Max Verstappen is supposedly starting on the hard tyres. There is a rain front coming in, which could affect the second half of this race. So Max Verstappen, much like the thinking champion he is, has planned ahead and started this race on the hard tyres. So even if he falls down the field, expect him to come through later, and especially if the rain falls, everyone he will check out, and everyone will be chasing their coattails and other cars, but not him, because he is the best in class in the wet conditions alongside Lewis Hamilton. Here come the 5 red lights for round 20 of the Formula 1 2022 season. Is lights out, and away we go for the Mexico Grand Prix. Nico Hulkenberg does get a good start. Now, what is Leclerc doing? He's actually not got off so well. Lando Norris is going to take second. Nico Hulkenberg got the perfect start. It's all going to be jostling for some space. We all know the moves can be done around here. Jackson's in the middle there, and Jackson is going to pass the AlphaTauri of Gasly. I mean, there was contact there. Look at Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen has already moved into the lead. What a first corner by Max Verstappen. Much like previous years, he's done that before. I think it was in 2021 or 2019 when he went round the outside of 2 cars in the first corner. He's done so yet again. Nico Hulkenberg is down to second. Charles Leclerc hangs on to third, and that's crucial in terms of the championship permutations. He's right alongside Hulkenberg there in that corner. Further down, we've got Aiden Jackson already up to 4th. He made contact with one of the AlphaTauris. I think it was Gasly. We wouldn't be surprised if he is in the pits. And there's Aiden Jackson, I think that was, going off the road in the Audi car at the back there. We've got a quick yellow flag. It was Jackson. He's fallen down to 8th. He's got off somewhere. And that's going to really hamper his championship chances. He really needs to stay within the top 5 for the rest of the season. And even then, it might be quite difficult. There's Zhou Guan Yu in 11th place, battling with Kevin Magnussen for a championship point. More points for Haas. Kevin Magnussen's all of a sudden becoming a very common point scorer, unlike his teammate Mick Schumacher. Lewis Hamilton passing no one at the start, surprisingly. And there is Charles Leclerc in the pits. And is it for a front wing? It is. Charles Leclerc is in the wars again. What is going on with Charles Leclerc? He just cannot keep his nose clean. And again, he's in the pits, and that is advantage Max Verstappen. Because now, with Charles on no points, and Max Verstappen on 2 points or 3 points ahead or so, or 5 even, that would give a 30-point lead going into Brazil, which means at the end of that weekend, if it stays like that, Max will win the championship with a round to spare. Charles Leclerc is in the wolves again. Why can he not keep his nose clean? And it is all falling apart in the last few races now for Charles Leclerc. And once again, Max Verstappen is in prime position. And guess what? He's on the hard tyres. He could probably go to the rain in that instance. Oh, what happened to Charles Leclerc? He's been leading this championship battle for so long. He won the first 2 races. He amassed a championship lead. Max has reeled him in over the course of the year, but the second half of the year has been a disaster for Charles Leclerc. And that's why he's pitting. He made contact with Hulkenberg. He absolutely dive-bombed it, locked up, and hit Hakkinen. Hakkinen fortunately hasn't suffered any damage for Lee to come in, but Max Verstappen alternate opportunist, but it was really due to Charles Leclerc doing really an unnecessary move into turn 1. He didn't even have any chance of passing Hakkinen. It was a dive bomb of hope from Charles Leclerc. That is not a move you could do in a championship fight. That was never on for Charles Leclerc. That is a mistake. And Max Verstappen says, thank you very much. I will have some of that and take P1. That could be a telling moment in the 2022 Formula 1 Championship. Here is the start from Aiden Jackson. He didn't get a good start either. Lost out to the AlphaTauri of Gasly and Sainz behind. Sainz, you probably wouldn't be too surprised with the Ferrari C-spec power unit, but he also lost to the other AlphaTauri as well. Jackson dropping like a stone, but then he makes it all up in turn 1. That's a bit of a non-move by Jackson as well. Not the best move he's ever done. He makes contact with the AlphaTauri. They'll probably call it racing incident at turn 1. There was a bit of a dive bomb by Jackson, but fortunately for him, he survived. And we're looking a little bit later on the same lap, and he makes contact with Charles Leclerc, and that's why Jackson was off the road momentarily. He was put into a half spin, and again, he's really going for a move that isn't really on there. To be fair, he did back out of it enough. He apologises because I think he knows he he owned up and holds his hands up to that. But we know Jackson can make it back up, but that could have been a lot worse. He got very lucky that he had no damage off the AlphaTauri contact, and it was tire-face contact with Leclerc. So that wasn't the reason Charles Leclerc had to go to the pits, because that would have been relatively harmless. That was his contact with Hakkinen that put him in the pits. Right, DRS enabled. And here comes Nico Hulkenberg, speaking of. Is he going to try and move into turn 1? He is on the championship leader. Nico Hulkenberg takes back the lead. Oh my goodness, Hulkenberg is up for this race. And this could be very vital right now. Max Verstappen putting up almost no fight. He knows he's got the championship advantage now with Charles Leclerc out of the points. Nico Hulkenberg takes back the lead. He's up to win this race then. And that's good to know. Let's hope he can pull it off. I think it would be win number 23. I could be wrong about that. But I think it'd be around about 23, I think. His car is 66, but that's not based on the amount of wins he has. And, well, the Audi that isn't Aiden Jackson is passing a car here. This was almost impossible to do at the start of the year for Nico Hulkenberg, unfortunately. But Nico Hulkenberg made that look easy. Into P1, he's on the faster tyres, but Max, of course, is on the hard tyres, so that obviously counts for something. So Max Verstappen just literally thinking of the championship picture. He must have lit up with glee when he saw Charles Leclerc going to Nico Hulkenberg off turn 1, because that now gives him championship advantage again if Charles doesn't get back into the points. And judging on the last race, he might not get there, because he didn't really make money in roads in the USA either. And finished outside the points. Of course, he had to stop a second time for a front wing, but Charles Leclerc has just, well, I wouldn't say bottled it, but he's certainly dropping out of contention here. What is going on is just complete and utter falling apart. It is a vintage Ferrari implosion, and I don't mean that unkindly. We have known that Ferrari have been able to just implode from winning positions before, and it looks like it's happening again. But for me, I think it's more of Charles' own doing. In USA, he just had a chaos race, and here he's made more contact and had to pit for a front wing change. Nico Hulkenberg is almost out of DRS range from Max Verstappen at the front. What an interesting sight this is. Well, Nico Hulkenberg, he'll be probably hoping he was in NASCAR right now, because that would give him an extra 5 points for leading a lap, I believe. Well, that's how it used to be. I'm not sure how it is now, as the director tries to get through the cameras to focus on Pierre Gasly, who's up to 5th place. Aiden Jackson's up to 6th already, so he's already passed Perez and Sonoda. So he's making his way back through after a bit of a chaos on that one. That's Carlos Sainz going down the inside of Pierre Gasly. Or Pierre Gasly actually attempting a pass on Sainz, is it? I'm not really sure which way around that was. I'm assuming it was Sainz passing Gasly. As there goes Daniel Ricciardo off the track. And it looks like he has suffered an engine failure in the McLaren Mercedes. And that's really unfortunate. That's just to really compound Daniel Ricciardo's season, to be fair, because his teammate Lando Norris is now up to P3, and he's, well, Ricciardo that is, really struggling in the last few races. And here's another pass from Aiden Jackson as we now begin the Jackson highlight reel. Vintage Aiden Jackson with more passing manoeuvres round the outside. He has a Ferrari in the way, and that's contact between the AlphaTauri and Carlos Sainz. And Jackson does a Verstappen and says, I'll have some of that. Thank you very much. Well, Aiden Jackson, what a contrast a year has made for him. Now up to P4 as the AlphaTauri of, I believe that's Gasly, is in the pits after contact with Carlos Sainz. The Ferraris are really in the wars over the last couple of races, but fortunately for Sainz, he's able to keep going. Look at this action. This is George Russell on Kevin Magnussen, Sergio Perez, and Yuki Tsunoda, and he's gone by all three of them. Oh my goodness, what a move by George Russell. He is now 7th, or he's 6th rather. He passed 3 cars before in the first corner there. Oh, George Russell, the Mercedes is certainly on it this weekend. Look at this. That is 2 cars with DRS and the leading car in the Red Bull, and Russell passed all of them. And Perez even had DRS there as well, supposedly. And George has gone, I'll have some of that, thank you very much. Well, who says you can't overtake in Mexico City? If anyone says that, they're mad. That's a 3-car move by George Russell. Oh my goodness. And, well, he is the best hope for Mercedes today, because Hamilton, well, he's coming through the field, to be fair now. He's 17th, although he's had many cars pit in front of him to do so. And, wow. What action here we've got in the first 7 laps of this race. More of this, please. That's Sergio Perez now being pursued by Kevin Magnussen of all people, and he's got ahead. Where have Haas come from? In particular, Kevin Magnussen. It asks the question of why Mick Schumacher just hasn't been able to score any points, because in the second half of the season, Kevin Magnussen scored a bulk of them, to be fair. And of course, Mick had the chance in Zandvoort and kind of blew it, really, unfortunately, with a spin. And, wow, look at this. Lando Norris right in the fight at the front again. McLaren have come good all of a sudden as well. McLaren, Alonso, and some cases Hakkinen as well, even though the Audi has been pretty much decent all year, to be honest. Oh my word. Well, Mika Hakkinen, he's actually legit leading this race. This really could be a chance for him now. If the rain does come down, however, it could change the complexion of this race. Hakkinen was never the real best in the rain, although, let's be fair, he knew how to drive in it. But when you're up against Michael Schumacher, the undisputed Rainmeister, in a normal day, you haven't really got much of a chance of doing anything more than second place. Because Michael, more often than not, would be out in front, absolutely cruising, with the ultimate weather skill that he has. But Hakkinen was no slouch, to be fair. But we'll have to see. And it's very much the same situation could befall him again here, because Max Verstappen is very much equal to Michael Schumacher in the rain conditions, as is Lewis Hamilton. That is a front wing change for Mick Schumacher. And, well, it's just more horrendous luck for Mick Schumacher, really, isn't it? It just hasn't worked out for Mick Schumacher. Haas, I mean, I think he'll be glad to be finally get this season over with. He is really on the verge now of scoring no points for the whole season. And it's a shame, really. I think a lot more was expected of Mick Schumacher, to be fair. And given the fact that Kevin Magnussen has got a bulk of the points for Haas, in fact, all of them to a degree, I think we have to somewhat say that despite some bad luck, it really has been a bit of a disappointing year for Mick Schumacher. I don't think I hope he's not going to be out of F1 entirely. I mean, he will be. I think it was actually confirmed that he will be Mercedes reserve driver for next season, because Nick de Vries could be being looked at AlphaTauri for a late slot. Personally, that would certainly be an out of the park decision from Red Bull. It'd be a bit left field. Well, not Red Bull, but AlphaTauri, even though they are owned by Red Bull. More or less, even though they are supposedly independent. In comes Stroll for a pit stop, change of tyres, and that's the same for the Alpine of Esteban Ocon. And that goes Charles Leclerc a couple more positions. It's kind of redundant for the moment, because Max Verstappen is currently in the fight for the win of this race. But he's really just blinding his time, isn't he? He's on the hard tyres, not really pushing that hard. just waiting for Hakkinen to make his pit stop first. Lando Norris, right there though. So let's see. Jackson's fourth and I think he's actually catching them actually. So the 1v3 battle, there he is. Right at the back of the screenshot there. Aiden Jackson is coming up quick on the leading three. And that could be very interesting. What will Audi play there? Because Mika Hakkinen is leading this race. I personally think Aiden Jackson will not make it too hard for Mika Hakkinen. Audi could really do with a big points haul here, because I think if they finish where they are now, they move into third in the Constructors' Championship out of absolutely nowhere. And once again, Mercedes see loading out Aiden Jackson as not being an overall decent thing for them, because every time they have, he's somewhat done better than them now. In the Haas last season, that was always impossible. So it probably doesn't look that way, but he did win the race at Monza, didn't he? So, of course, Hamilton won a lot more. He was in the championship fight. So maybe for 2021, that's rather not the correct thing to say, to be fair, because, yes. But this year, they really could regret it, because his team is actually beating the team he is actually with, more or less. Well, the reserve driver for anyway. And I'm sure Mick Schumacher will be put into second reserve driver alongside Jackson, which means they will team up again. Oh, is there no front wing on Lewis Hamilton? Oh, there he is. I thought there was no front wing for a moment for Lewis Hamilton. That would have been extremely unfair and cruel, because Hamilton's doing pretty well at the moment in P13, chasing Nicholas Latifi of all people into 12th. How on earth did Latifi get there? That's interesting. And Charles Leclerc, I believe, is coming up quick on... Oh, Mick Schumacher. He's out of this race. And, well, I think he probably just wanted to go home anyway. Well, they put the hard tyres on him. Probably trying to run to the end of the race. And, well, Haas, like we said, it has been a much improved model over last year. But, well... when is this boy's luck going to change? Well, it's probably not going to, let's be honest. Aiden Jackson sets the fastest lap as he's coming up really quick. He's gained 2 seconds on the 3 in front of him. Aiden Jackson's flying. He's right just 2 seconds behind the leaders now. So Jackson has had a stunning recovery drive from a lap 1 calamities and is up to 4th. And this is absolutely vital for Audi, but he also could be vital for Red Bull. Max Verstappen round the outside. He's finally making his move. Hakkinen holds it in, and he holds the position. Mika Hakkinen certainly not letting this one get away if he can help it. Max Verstappen's going to have to try harder than that. He's up against Mika Hakkinen, one of the toughest adversaries Max Verstappen has ever encountered. And through sheer luck, really, because I don't think we ever expected it at the beginning of the season, but we will certainly take it. So, Nicholas Latifi in 12th is very interesting right now, because Alex Albon has scored all of Williams' points this year, particularly in the last 2 races. Is there going to be finally a day for Nicholas Latifi? He's not scored any of the points this year. He's level with Mick Schumacher in terms of points, but Schumacher is ahead on countback for previous positions, because there's been a couple of times where Mick Schumacher was 11th or 12th. He's been mostly there all season, to be fair. And, well, this race win really could go to anyone right now. It could even go to Mika Hakkinen. And how great would that be if that was the case? Lando Norris going for a 3rd Grand Prix win and back-to-back wins. Max Verstappen, well, he needs just points, really. He doesn't even need to fight so hard, because... really, he will have championship advantage going into Brazil. And I think as of right now, if the positions stay as they are, Max Verstappen would be, I believe, 18 plus 5 is 23. So, I believe, 9, 0, 1, 2, 3, yes. My maths isn't great. So it'll be a 23-point lead for Max Verstappen going into Brazil, meaning he would have to finish ahead of Charles Leclerc in both races, because don't forget there's a sprint in Brazil. All he needs to do is finish 2 points, be 2 points more than Leclerc throughout the weekend. And he will be world champion with a round to spare. No asterisk is needed. Well, it certainly wouldn't be no asterisk needed for this one. Max Verstappen has really had to work for this one. And he really had to work for last year's, to be fair. It was a titanic battle with Lewis Hamilton, and let's be honest, I don't think you really put an asterisk to 2021. A lot of people will, for various reasons, but if you cross the line and finish the season ahead on points, you are world champion. There's no disputing it. How you get there is always a contentious debate, one way or another. Sometimes you can say maybe in 2009 that Braun got extremely lucky with Jensen Button that he won the first 4 or 5 races of the season, because in the second half Braun fell off completely for the most part. They still got theirs, but in the end Braun really ended up falling backwards. You could say maybe especially 2017 and 18, Sebastian Vettel just had no luck. He ran out of luck, really, because he looked odds on to win at one point, and then he went off in Germany and it all changed. That was in 2018, of course. There are no asterisks in world winners. No matter how many people try to dress it up one way or another. If you're at the head at the end of the season, you're world champion, and it is almost undisputed. But this year, it really can be undisputed, because Max Verstappen has had a back and forth with Charles Leclerc almost all season, and yet he's still going to take it with a round to spare. But Charles Leclerc has not had the greatest 2 races, to be fair. He's probably had a bit, not a meltdown by his standards. He's a fantastic driver, so he didn't melt down, but it's been a very similar scenario to that 2017 championship win for Lewis Hamilton, in where Ferrari just had a vintage implosion by either themselves or by their driver making mistakes. Mistakes happen. These guys are already human, of course, so you can't really forge blame anywhere. It's sport, it happens. Last year was a very momentous subject in Abu Dhabi, especially. I'm saying it shouldn't have been happened, it should have never even been brought up the way it did in the very infamous unlapping scenario. But you could argue also that Mercedes could pit Lewis Hamilton, especially at the second safety car. Some people say that he ran out of track time. I mean, I think personally, I think he had more than enough time, but Mercedes, to be fair, you know, Mercedes did envision the race ending under the safety car, but you could also say, maybe in that instance, the track was clear. Could have gone racing, which is race director's prerogative at the time. There's so many different ways it could all have happened, but at the end of the day, Max Verstappen won the race and the championship, and there have been, he's not the only one to do so under contentious circumstances. Michael Schumacher in 1994, rather, very contentious collision with Damon Hill, which decided the championship. 1997 could have gone a very similar way. Max Verstappen around the outside of Nico Hulkenberg. Nico Hulkenberg once again holding his position firmly here. He's doing a fantastic job, to be fair. In 2002, I don't think Austria 2002 would have really had much bearing on the championship. Michael was so far ahead at the time. We have a VSC deployed here. Now, why is that? That's interesting. We have VSC deployed. I didn't even notice. To be fair, Lewis Hamilton is falling down the order. I wonder if he's gone off and either damaged his car or maybe has a terminal problem, because that would be a reason. And Hamilton's been falling down the order. In fact, he's now last of the running drivers, because Schumacher and Daniel Ricciardo are the 2 retirements. I think Hamilton's had a problem somewhere, and it's forced the appearance of the virtual safety car. It'll be very momentarily. That's the only thing I can really think of that could provide a reason. Now, are Hamilton and Verstappen going to come in here? Oh, in fact, we've just gone green flag. So no, is the answer to that question, because the VSC pretty much just ended as they came across the start finish line. Now, DRS will be immediately enabled, and Max Verstappen finally gets his man Hakkinen tries to move around the outside, tries to go the other way. And unfortunately this time, Mika Hakkinen's stern defense is broken. Aiden Jackson is still catching those ahead. The gap has stagnated a little bit at 2 seconds, but little by little he's closing in even more. Jackson could finish on the podium here. And Zhou Guanyu is in the points for Alfa Romeo. In a very disappointing year for Alfa Romeo, some would say. Zhou Guanyu is in the points. Bottas is in the pits. Kevin Magnussen's coming out of the pits as well. Dry tyres seem to be the order of the day. I wonder, and it's getting pretty cloudy here now, I wonder if the rain is coming and the front four in particular are trying to hold out as long as possible. Max Verstappen can do so on the hard tyres. And what will the three behind him do? Well, Charles Leclerc is now back into the points in 10th place. As Sainz comes in. Hakkinen is in as well. So Hakkinen gets strategy, what's the word? Strategy call being the lead Audi. But I personally think that Aiden Jackson's probably going to just wait for the rain to arrive. If it ever does, of course. Well, Hakkinen out into 6th place. And let's see if we can reel everyone else back in after they make their stops. If the rain does come, then Mick is going to have to stop again, and that'll take him pretty much out of contention for this race win, which would be very unfortunate. Charles Leclerc makes his way back to the points. I wonder if... I'd like to see what tyres Charles is on, because if he's on the hard tyres, he made the right call earlier. And I would assume he would be, because I think he started on the medium tyres. I think I'm seeing some raindrops. I think I am seeing some raindrops on the camera. The rain is coming. And these three have made absolutely 300 IQ calls. Jackson has been absolutely flying. And you can see positions switching all the time. Now Gasly's up to P16. Zhou Guanyu doing very well in P14, by the way. And there's another raindrop. Max Verstappen and Aiden Jackson are 1-2. Lando Norris is pitted, I think. As we got another yellow flag, and that is Lewis Hamilton. He's off the road this time. And he is out of the race. Oh, what a shame. Lewis Hamilton is staring at the prospect of going, whoa! What is going on there? That's a very slow Aston Martin. I think it was Vettel that was holding up Latifi. Now, was one of those two coming out of the pits. Now, Hamilton just narrowly avoided a real collision there. There's Vettel. And there's Latifi. So, Hamilton was losing power anyway. And he is staring at the prospect of going winless for the first time in his Formula 1 career if he doesn't win at Brazil or Abu Dhabi from here on out. And that could be very unfortunate. Because we all know that he deserved a win in Hungary. This season, but his engine gave up the ghost on that, and he's given up on him again. Mercedes, not the best reliability this season, it has to be said, because of course Hulkenberg had 2 engine failures in earlier in the season, back to back actually, in Imola and Miami. Aiden Jackson's engine broke down in Belgium. Mercedes lost George Russell in Japan and Hamilton in Hungary, and have lost Daniel Ricciardo today. So Mercedes' reliability hasn't been really that good, has it? It's really been quite a down year for Mercedes in terms of reliability with the engine. Something they'll need to fix for next year. Especially, Connorssport will especially be hoping that's the case should they use their engines next year as well, which they most likely will. Mika Hakkinen being pursued by Lando Norris. Aiden Jackson, Max Verstappen still trying to go as long as they can at the front. And Max Verstappen is now starting to stretch his legs on the hard tyres. What a brilliant call from Verstappen. Very much has that race sense similar to Michael Schumacher. Always plans ahead, always thinks ahead. always thinks of the whole picture. Maybe his passing maneuvers can be questionable sometimes, but so are Michael Schumacher's at times, to be fair. There's no denying what this boy is in terms of talent, though. Undeniable. And he was always destined for a world championship. Many will wish that he got it in less controversial circumstances, but if he does win it this year, he's more than made up for it. But is that really because Charles Leclerc has had a very poor last couple of races in terms of keeping his car out of trouble? For Sebastian Vettel, it was more just horrendous luck. Especially in Germany, he never really recovered after the engine failure there. Actually, no, he went off, didn't he? He went off as a kind of a mix-up, more than anything. Ferrari didn't really make the right calls back then either. So it was part team and part driver. This year, probably been more driver, to be honest. And Charles Leclerc just not thinking of the championship. I mean, at the start of that race, the move was never on for Charles Leclerc. It was not vintage, but it was just a mistake, really, by Charles Leclerc. And like we said, mistakes happen. These guys are human too. They will make mistakes. Well, the rain is still coming. Is it hard enough for intermediate tyres? Not right now. But if it keeps up at this steady rate, it might be. I think we will see the intermediate tyres before the end of this race. Aiden Jackson is doing a stellar job of keeping these tyres in check enough to at least keep Verstappen honest. Keep him thinking of what's behind him. I think Jackson's tyres could be approaching the cliff. There's Charles Leclerc in the pits. Now, what have they put on? They've put on the intermediate tyres. Charles is going early. He might as well. He's got nothing to lose at this moment. He is the first to go onto the intermediate tyres then. Ferrari trying to get the jump. Good call. Now, will Max Verstappen and Aiden Jackson follow suit behind him? Because if they don't, Charles is going to gobble this all up. And for once, well, we say for once, Ferrari, like I said, haven't really made bad calls this year. But this could be a pivotal telling moment. Jackson is in. Is Verstappen in ahead of him? Yes, he is. And he makes the right call, immediately reacting to Charles Leclerc and moving on to the intermediate tyres. And I will assume that Aiden Jackson will do the same. He certainly will. Now, what are the Red Bull going to do with Perez? They could pit him now if they wanted. And I think they have, actually. They certainly have. Häkkinen's come in. His race has been ruined because he had to pit earlier. Which is rather unfortunate. He couldn't make those tyres last. I don't think Häkkinen's going to lose too much, to be fair. I think he'll probably be down to about 4th, maybe. Yeah, he's behind Perez. But ahead of Norris and Sainz. And here comes everyone else. So, I think DRS is going to be disabled pretty shortly. Because if every car is on the intermediate tyres at any point, DRS will be disabled. It doesn't necessarily have to be disabled if everyone tries to go onto the intermediates on a dry circuit, which no one would do, because it would just be a terrible idea. Yes, if it's raining and everyone's on the intermediate tyres, DRS will be disabled. And I think that has been the case. And that spares Mika Häkkinen some trouble. Doesn't have to worry about Lando Norris. There we go. Doesn't have to worry about Lando Norris having an extra speed as McLaren to pass the Audi ahead. Although, to be fair, he's had the legs of Norris and Verstappen all day. It's a shame that Verstappen had the better tyre strategy, but what are you going to do? It's what happens sometimes. And for the first time since the arrival of Aiden Jackson back in 2021, Max Verstappen and Aiden Jackson in competitive machinery are leading 1-2. But Verstappen has an ever-increasing advantage and the rain now. And it looks like Verstappen is going to take match point, or at least advantage point, in the championship fight. Charles Leclerc, though, is back in the points, to be fair to him. But it could, and probably should, have been the race win, you could argue. George Russell, he did that sensational 3-car move earlier in the race. Now he's really much a clean air on his own, as the field is starting to really spread out at this point. Well, what an unusual day this is going to be for Mercedes, because on this current result, Audi will overhaul Mercedes for third in the Constructors' Championship. This late season surge from Audi F1 team has absolutely been the golden ticket for third place. It's not going to count for much. They will receive the prize money, of course, but 10% will probably go to provide Connosport slightly, although it only will be about 5 or 10%. Just for really, they're not taking over the operations, but I think that's probably just shows good faith for the technical partnership it never was. So maybe that has something to do with it. But even still, it's probably not going to affect them too much. And then they've obviously got a few years with Sauber to work it all out, which they really will do. And if they come like this in 2026, watch out, because my goodness, what a platform they've made for themselves. Their driver lineup will be drastically different by then. We don't know who with. We reckon, but Audi, I would not be surprised if Aiden Jackson is on their books for life, trying to get him back. But Mercedes and Toto Wolff really want to keep him for as long as possible. They'll have to loan him out again to Connosport, because there's really no room at Mercedes right now in terms of the driver lineup. Hamilton and George Russell at least contracted till 2024. No room at Red Bull either. Wow, can you imagine that? Aiden Jackson and Max Verstappen as teammates at Red Bull. That would certainly be something I would like to see. Oh, that would very much be a rocking of the boat dynamic that Aiden Jackson would provide. He wouldn't intentionally do it. He would certainly give Verstappen a run for his money. That would be sure. And not to say Perez hasn't, but Aiden Jackson is a whole different ball game. Talent is oozing out of Aiden Jackson, especially this season. It's definitely been the breakthrough year for him. That's the word I've been looking for all year long, or at least the second half of it. It's a breakthrough year for Aiden Jackson for sure. Well, we still ask what will become of Connosport in 2023. And as we've said before, it is looking likely for Devin Butler to be there next season. And I certainly wouldn't say no to that. Devin is certainly a name that deserves a chance. Indy 500 winner, one of the most legendary races of all time. Yeah, I would certainly not say no to that. And it would be an interesting dynamic to see Jackson and Butler as teammates. They were championship rivals in for F3 in 2019 and had a rather infamous coming together at Austria that year. But all that did was fire Aiden Jackson up to catch and pass him eventually. Of course, no room at Ferrari either for if Aiden Jackson was to move from this out from elsewhere. No room at Ferrari either. Sainz and Leclerc contracted. McLaren may have been an outside shot, but I think they're rather content with Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, and who can blame them? That's for next season, of course. Aston Martin could still be a possibility, but Lance Stroll looks rather penciled in for the foreseeable. And of course, Fernando Alonso. And, well, that does leave a shot for Williams, I suppose, but I don't think Aiden Jackson will... He won't say no to Williams, that's for sure. He won't say no to them. But not to be unkind, it's not a car right now that would show his talent very much. But they are improving. Who's to say in 2026 they won't be there? They've been steadily improving as the years go by. They were certainly in the doldrums a few years ago. Certainly better than that over the last couple of seasons. George Russell was the really building force for it all a year or so ago. Why do you think George is at Mercedes in the first place? Nico Hulkenberg doing a sterling job of holding up Lando Norris here. And he's done a very good job considering it's the rain as well. So Hulkenberg is doing a very good job. I've been very impressed with Nico Hulkenberg. A lot of people probably wouldn't have given him a chance. And really would have been just there just to fill up the numbers. But Hulkenberg has done much more than that. That's only considering his age though. Experience and talent never goes away. But age is certainly a subject when it came to Nico Hulkenberg. But he's really proved the doubters wrong. For the second half of this season, Audi will be very, very reluctant to let him go. They would have probably wished they had him a few years ago. Maybe in 2002. But Audi weren't even a team back then. Toyota was the newest team to join the grid at that point. And it was Mika Salo and Adam McNish, and we all remember how that debut turned out. Salo, he got the point, but he was rather an unsung hero in Australia for spinning and allowing Mark Webber to score some points for Minardi. What a day that was. The 2003 season, that was just a prelude of what was to come in that magnificent season. One of the best in well, not recent times, but certainly yesteryear when it comes to that period. Michael Schumacher was forever dominant, but 2003, my word, it's been very much a repeat of this season, isn't it? This season's definitely been a repeat of that. Back and forth we go in the championship, but right now, Max Verstappen has advantage point because he is about to win this race in the next few laps. Charles Leclerc is over 10 seconds behind George Russell. In fact, it could be more than that. It's pretty much 10 at the moment. So, with about 8 laps to go, he's not going to catch George anytime soon. Well, he probably could, but it would be very close. But I think in the end, George would just have the legs of Charles in that Ferrari C-spec power unit car. And the C-spec power unit, well, we expected them to dominate Ferrari this season, but that has not been the case at all. And Alfa Romeo and Haas have generally struggled. So it wasn't the all-conquering power unit that was expected. It certainly got theirs, but late on this season, well, it could have been anybody's, to be honest. I would say the most improved team is this outfit. Hakkinen getting 2 podiums over the course of his comeback. His pole position yesterday could have won this race, but I think Max Verstappen's tyre strategy was just the better. And now Aiden Jackson is just cruising to second place in this race as well. And he's all out on his own, just controlling his car. And he loves these conditions as well, Aiden Jackson. But he's too far behind Verstappen to make any real impact on this race. So, Verstappen leads as we enter the final laps of this race from Aiden Jackson. Sergio Perez in 3rd. And we haven't really talked about this very much, but hang on, 25... 15, that's 30 points. I think, I could be wrong, but I think a Red Bull will finally overhaul Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship, and all of a sudden, the Constructors' Championship could be coming to Red Bull. Ferrari have had the most consistent year, but let's be honest, they've kind of dropped the ball a little bit in terms of the Constructors' Championship. Well, we didn't really think about that very much. We thought Ferrari had it sewn up a few races ago. But at this moment, I do think Red Bull are going to come very close to Ferrari's lead. They might even overhaul them. And the same with Audi as well. Overhauling Mercedes for P3. Unfortunately, they won't get any more than that, because there's quite a gap between Mercedes and the 2 in front. Or what could become Audi and the 2 in front, but we actually completely forgot about that. Well, I did. McLaren certainly came on strong in the last few races. I don't think there's much more to gain in terms of position for them, but it's a very good platform to build on for next year. Well, man we mentioned earlier was Nicholas Latifi, but unfortunately he's now down in 18th. And the penultimate runner of the running field, with Hamilton, Schumacher and Ricciardo all out, all due to engine failures, or engine problems at the very least. So, at the end of this race, if it stays like this, then we could see positions change at the front. Red Bull could become the championship leaders, I think, for the first time this season, if that does happen. I don't think they've read the constructors at all season long. Because Ferrari and Charles Leclerc won the opening 2 races, and Max Verstappen won a couple of races, but Sainz was always in the points, as was Perez. But Sainz was always ahead of Perez for the most part. But now, this is a huge result for Red Bull. Norris and just staring at the back of the Audi. I think for the most part he's probably just going to the end. Good chance attacking him, but I think the Audi is very much a strong enough vehicle to hold back the McLaren. Oh, that's Max Verstappen getting a little bit out of shape. That was close. So I think there was expectation that Max would hold it. It was sensational in these conditions. Definitely rivaling Lewis Hamilton in the wet weather skills department. The more I look at Max Verstappen sometimes, the more I do see Michael Schumacher in him. He's had a very similar career to Michael. I know that might be a very controversial take, but I really do think that the more you think about it, the more like Michael Schumacher this kid is. You know, very similar driving styles, very similar race patterns. Verstappen probably a little bit more aggressive, maybe too aggressive for his own good sometimes, as USA proved. Schumacher was not really much of a incident pro, I would say. He would have his collisions, but I think Verstappen probably just has them a bit too much sometimes. I think the one thing they probably differ is their temperament. Max is a lot more, I wouldn't say hot-headed, but he's very vocal when he's emotional. And sometimes his emotions can get the better of him. Michael was much more mellow and in check at times. He had his moments, Michael Schumacher, who can forget Spa 98 and that incident with Coulthard. Exactly Coulthard, and Coulthard misjudged. It was all a mix-up, and the misjudge of braking and positioning took Michael Schumacher out of the race, and we all remember that image of him storming down the pit lane. So Michael had his moments too, and they were a lot less like that. Max seems a lot more of a temperament-based individual. Certainly not afraid to say what he thinks, Max Verstappen. He is certainly not one of those PR kind of guys, Max Verstappen. Not to say that any of these drivers are, but Max is certainly not in that vein. He's already lapped these cars. Wet weather skill, wind patterns, race patterns to some degree. First championship win being controversial. The way the moves to different teams happen. The more I see him, the more I see his career unfold, the more like Michael Schumacher he just becomes to me. It's probably just me, but I see a lot of Michael in this kid. And as a Schumacher fan, that's actually probably why I've kind of grown to him so much, to be honest, because I have. I've obviously been impartial in these commentaries, but I always have a spot for Max Verstappen, really, because he reminds me of a time in F1 I just loved, especially that dominant era. And will Max Verstappen have a dominant era? We don't really know. This one certainly hasn't been the case. And Red Bull, of course, don't forget, have their 10% ATR CFD testing reduction to the rest of the team, so that might harm them later in 2023 when they really need it. So, the end of 2023, if Ferrari get the start they have this year, and Red Bull have to kind of play catch up, they can't catch up as much as they'd like. Vettel's been, that's the second time an Aston Martin's kind of lifted off on the straight. I wonder if, that's contact between, that was why Vettel was slow. He's not really letting Perez through, he really should. And Sebastian Vettel, he just wants to fight someone, I think. Why has this man just been so let down by his car? What a shame. Sebastian Vettel was another one I grew to very quickly. A lot to do with Michael Schumacher, of course. Obviously good friends with the great man. And that earned him some points. And I think right now, every heart just goes out to Sebastian Vettel. He's not had the final year he'd hoped for. I wanted to see this man challenge for one more title. He probably could have had 2 more, you could argue. But a mixture of him and the team let the whole project down. It wasn't all his fault, but certainly mistakes that crept in late in seasons, which was very unlike Sebastian Vettel. Back in 2010 through 2012, he used to come alive in the second half of the season when no one would expect it. In 2017 and 18, it sadly went the other way. Well, for Max Verstappen, he's led this championship a few times over the last 20 races now. Today, he takes a big step towards the championship. He's been very good round here in the past. He's about to become the most winningest driver at the Mexico City Grand Prix. It was actually called that from last season, which we forgot to pick up. Max Verstappen will take championship advantage into Brazil with an over 25-point lead, which he will just have to hold in Brazil to become champion with a round to spare. Max Verstappen rounds the final corner and wins the Mexico City Grand Prix in a truly not dominating fashion, let's be honest. Hakkinen gave him a fight, but at the end of the day, that tyre strategy worked out wonders for Red Bull. For the first time ever, Aiden Jackson and Max Verstappen are 1-2. Maybe next year we'll see more of that. I would certainly not say no to it. Look, Hakkinen is actually... That's Hakkinen, he's caught Perez. Oh! Nico Hakkinen had been unknowingly flying. He's actually caught Perez. But Perez wins out to the happiness of Mexico City. He's on the podium. And Red Bull and Audi become the winners of the weekend. Because I believe that Red Bull move into the Constructors' Championship lead and Audi move into third ahead of Mercedes. Don't forget, Audi are actually holding on to one of their Mercedes' own drivers. Aiden Jackson staking his claim for a Mercedes seat by beating them. Certainly, stranger things have happened, but it's certainly a very unique thing we're witnessing right now. He gets the extra fastest lap bonus point, because there's going to be no more fastest laps when the rain came down. Charles Leclerc, big letdown this weekend, down in 8th place, and he puts him on the verge of once again, well, not once again, but let's be fair, this is the first year that Charles Leclerc has been in a championship battle of this magnitude. Mistakes were going to happen, and we can only hope that he learns from this and takes that into next season. 26 points between Verstappen and Leclerc then. All Verstappen needs to do is beat Leclerc by that margin, and he'll be champion with a round to spare. But don't count Aiden Jackson out either. He's only a further point back. He's actually a point back from Leclerc, I think that was. So Jackson could get second, unbelievably. Oh my goodness, Aiden Jackson, what a story that would be. Wow, I think that was the point. I could be wrong. And look, and oh, not quite. Red Bull still a second then. So Ferrari still just 16 points clear, but there have been 2 movers. Audi, as we said, go ahead of Mercedes, and I think that was past ahead of AlphaTauri, I believe. So I've done good lately. Well, what a crazy race, and the championship as a result, it could be 1 race away from Max Verstappen. Don't forget the sprint as well. We'll see but when Formula 1 returns for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, it could be a championship decider.